This week we sail overnight to Kinsale. We get a rope caught on our propeller and we have some help from the RNLI.
Good morning. It's quite a clear, nice morning. It's pretty cold. We're looking at leaving the Scillies today and heading up towards Ireland. So it's been difficult planning this because the forecast has changed almost every time we've looked. But we've got what looks like good wind today. It's going to be a southeasterly which should blow us directly to our destination, if not a slightly on the starboard beam, coming from the mainland. So the wind is good, but the swell, when we came around from St Agnes to Briar yesterday, the swell was enormous, unpredicted as well. It was supposed to be about 1.5 meters and it was at least 4 meters, going up to the spreaders at times. I think that was because it was the tide was pushing against it, which my fault, didn't check, thought it was a very, very short trip. Today, same conditions, same time, so only about an hour difference on the tides, as always. So we might encounter the same conditions. It's predicted to be 1.4 today, but dropping. And it's lighter over at the Irish coast, as is the weather. So we're sort of hoping, if it does start off a bit big, then it's gonna reduce, but we're gonna give it a go. We don't want a tiresome journey. It's at least 26 hours in the plan, so very tiring anyway, even in good conditions. So and we're not great sailors. You know, we've not sailed a lot recently either, so we're still just getting our groove back into it. So we don't want to push ourselves too far too soon. It's a big journey as well. The boat's perfectly capable, but we don't want the crew to fail. And there's not much of a bailout really, because it's easterly winds. We wouldn't be able to turn towards the mainland. We could turn back towards the Scillies, but then it's a southeasterly, so we'd probably be going directly into the wind. So we don't really want to spend too long bailing out if we have to, so we're probably going to go out maybe a mile offshore. If it's bad, we're just going to turn around, and if it's not, then we'll carry on, and hopefully this time tomorrow we'll be pulling into Kinsale or Cork or somewhere like that in Ireland. First time for me and Jude going to Ireland, so really looking forward to that, quite excited, but got to get this passage out of the way first.
We've been going now for about 2 hours, so we've got about 24 hours left. It is a bit hit and miss with the timing, because obviously it depends on the speed we're going. We are currently motor sailing, because we're not, with the wind as it is, not quite making as much speed as we need to be, so we've just got the motor on a little bit just to help us keep going. Hopefully we'll be able to turn it off later when the wind is due to pick up a bit more. Conditions are right. There's a bit of swell coming from the west, which we expected, and there's a little bit of waves as well coming up. They are meant to get a bit bigger. Well, I guess we know that they're probably going to get bigger when the tide turns. But all in all, it seems to be going okay so far. We will start watches in a bit and probably do 3 hours this time. We're not really sure. We'll see how we get along, and hopefully won't be too many fishing boats in the night time to avoid. But yeah, hopefully we'll be in Ireland tomorrow. If not, maybe Canada in a few weeks. No, we should be all good. We are now on our shift watch. I've taken the first one on, so currently, well, there's only one containery type ship in front of us, but it's about 12 nautical miles away and we can't actually see it present, and it's going away from us. I don't think we will. The sea state is a bit choppy. We're getting chucked around like a little water, well, like we're in a washing machine, which is a bit annoying on the sails because sails lose their wind and then have to get back again. But it's alright, it's quite comfy. We're feeling okay at the moment. We had some lunch, so just in case anyone's interested, for breakfast we had porridge before we left, and then for lunch I'd cooked a chicken breast yesterday and made up some salad, and we made wraps on deck. Wouldn't have normally done that, but I didn't have time this morning to assemble them, but went down quite well, to be fair. We've got chilli for dinner later, which Dave made yesterday, and then we just have snacks in the day, maybe a bit of fruit, some crisps, a little bit of chocolate probably. But yeah, then hopefully tomorrow we'll just have breakfast underway, probably some more porridge or cereal again. Yeah, I'll speak to you later.
We're about a quarter of the way there now, so still in the Atlantic, or the Irish Sea. I'm not really sure what this is designated as. We're coming up in about 6 hours to the Irish border, but the seas have calmed down a bit. The wind is a bit more consistent now. We're getting a reasonable angle. We're just on the sort of edge of a run, so it's a bit frustrating having to watch out for accidental jibes. I've put 2 reefs in the main. The main was only really steadying the boat, to be honest, in the big seas. So I've reduced the main, pinned it right in. It's absolutely in the wrong place for the point of sail, but it steadies the boat, and with it heavily reefed, there's much less of a shadow on the head sail, so the head sail is now banging around a lot less as well, and we're getting good power. Hopefully you can hear we've now stopped the engine. We seem to be maintaining speed better now. We were dropping down to 3 knots earlier. The tide was against us, but we wouldn't expect to be quite that slow. And it was, I think, just because you're going uphill when you're going up a big swelly wave, and we could do it slower, but we're not that experienced. We don't love being at sea. We like being at sea, but we'd also like to get there at a reasonable hour, and not too tired. So we had the motor on for a while. We've not used too much diesel, so that's all fine. But yeah, just a long slow passage. One thing that's really interesting is, hopefully it came across in the footage of the Scillies, although I didn't have a polarizer on there. The water is lovely greeny blue, very sort of Caribbean, Bahamas type of look. Because it's sandy below, it's crystal clear water, there's nothing in it. Actually, St Agnes, when the sand gets washed up, the sand is like glitter, so it sort of looks like glitter in the water, just sparkling around by the beach. But we've gone from that, where it's crystal clear water, very shallow, you could see the bottom up until probably 10 meters, to now just in the middle of the sea. It's over 100 meters deep here, and it's just black. It's not even a shade of blue, I wouldn't say anymore. It's just a black. My English teacher would be disappointed to know I've forgotten the paragraph for, or she might be pleased to know that I've remembered that there was a passage in Under Milk Wood that was something like the slow black water of the whatever river it was in Wales. Dylan Thomas, apologies for butchering your poem there. And the slow black is different in each instance. One of them is slow gin, SLOE, for the black of the gin berries. One of them is black, and I think one of them was like depressing or dark, that sort of a spiritual meaning of black. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. But yeah, it is very dark water, was the point of that. So yeah, we'll catch up later. Another little update. I'm still on watch. But, it's quite strange once you're in the middle of the sea. Excuse the creaking of the with the lines around the boom. Once you're in the middle of the sea, it's strange on watch, especially in somewhere like the Irish Sea here, where there's not a lot of traffic really. Most of it is over on the UK side or by the coast of Ireland, just because those are the direct lines from the major ports. So people will be going from Liverpool to Land's End, so they'll be down to the side, or they'll be coming around the south coast of Ireland and heading off to the west. So here there's not a lot of people, there's not even fishing really that we're seeing. So look over there, nothing there. Look over there, nothing there. Go there, nothing there. Half an hour later you look again, nothing there. And then every now and then something there. So you've got to keep looking. But just very interesting, I thought. I will show you the horizon. Pretty boring, eh? But boring's how we like it on crossings. We're probably a third of the way through now. Still doing about 5 knots-ish, which is the planned speed. So all going well.
First night watch now. Dave's gone down below for a rest and the sun has just set behind me, so it's going to start getting dark now. The moon is, I can't remember what it is, one of the very tiny crescents, so it's going to be quite dark tonight, and we've just got to watch out for any vessels around. At the moment it's quite clear again, a few ships cargo ships in the distance, but none of which we can see yet, and they're all on AIS, so we're watching to see what they're doing. Yeah, continue on with my watch and see how dark we get.
It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. We were going along under motor. The wind kind of died overnight, so we've been motoring, and suddenly heard a thud on the propeller, and it's an enormous piece of rope which has now wrapped itself around the prop. So now we're going to have to try to free that. We're about 4 hours outside of wherever we were going. Kinsale. So we've got some time to think. There is enough wind to sail, so we're now doing, I don't know, 3 knots or so, which will get us there. So 4 hours out was under motor, so this might be about 6 hours out. To be honest, we're probably both a bit too tired to deal with this, but you don't really have a choice when these things happen. So yeah, we'll get to fixing it. I don't think there's much I can do to stop to get that off. That's solidly on there. as you can see, we've got the rope on board, or one end of it anyway. I've not been able to free it from the prop and or the rudder. Not really sure what's going on down there. We're still quite a way out. We're in 100 meters of water, so it's just not safe to jump in, certainly in this swell as well, that you'd have to swim right under the boat to get to the prop, and I just think that's dangerous. The boat would come down and hit you on the head. So we're sailing, going to get to Kinsale, hopefully drop the hook somewhere, and then jump in the water and see if we can sort it out. It looks like there is a cove that we can stop in, so fingers crossed we can just drop the hook. I'm also sort of tempted to call the RNLI, just because if anything goes wrong dropping the hook, then we're on the rocks potentially. So but we've got 4 hours to think about it, and we'll see what happens. I'll update you later.
Is it recording?
Mm-hmm.
We've arrived in the Med! Super sunny here. No, seriously, we've arrived in Kinsale Island.
Which is twinned with Antibes, which is in the Med, so close enough for us.
I thought it was Mumbles.
Mumbles in Wales, yep. So twinned with both Mumbles, which is famous for drinking as far as I'm aware, and Antibes, which is famous for sunshine and rich yachties.
So this is where we've got the white wine out. Yeah, we had a bit of an interesting sailing and ended with the RNLI coming out to escort us in, as we had no working engine. That was due to having a rope wrapped around our prop. Do you want to talk about the rope?
Yes, so just to explain kind of the full picture of the journey, we left the Isles of Scilly between St Agnes and Briar at about 8 o'clock in the morning. We had a great sail north. There was quite a bit of swell initially. That flattened off as time went on. The wind was from the perfect direction, so initially it was southeasterlies blowing us pretty much directly where we wanted to go. Really good angle. The wind was then forecast to come around to the east and drop slightly, so first thing in the day we had I think it was 16 to 18 knots of wind, gusting harder, but it was straight behind us, so it felt reasonably comfortable. It was pretty good, and then it was supposed to drop to 12 to 15, I think, something like that, and we thought, yep, that'll be absolutely fine. By the time it dropped, though, it dropped way lower than that. We don't currently have a working wind instrument, but it dropped enough that we had to put the motor on. So we put the motor on, and it was on for a few hours, and then just after we had changed shift, yeah. Jude went downstairs, I came up. I was just sat there, had a look around, and heard a thump, and it was a rope caught around the prop. Immediately put it into neutral. The engine had stalled out as well. This all happened in under a second, and then I obviously saw that there was an enormous rope around the back. We've got some footage of that which will go into this video, but there was nothing that we really could have done to prevent it. It wasn't a pot marker, there was nothing on the surface, it was just a floating piece of rope, and 20 feet long, so in theory you could have seen it, but what we probably skipped over a little bit earlier in this is there was a swell coming from the west to the east. That was probably 3 to 4 meters of swell, which was fine. It had a reasonable period to it, so you're just bobbing up and down on that. But then with the easterly winds, that was creating waves in the opposite direction, and that means there are lots and lots of troughs and peaks, and also the light was coming from the east, I think, at the time, and we were going westerly, so the light was reflecting off of the water, so we couldn't see anything in the water effectively. The best we were doing was looking out for other boats and seeing other boats. So then, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, it was really murky water as well, wasn't it? It was like all puffed up and stuff. Yeah, it was an interesting one coming back in. Obviously, I'm fairly new to sailing anyway, and like there was a bit of worry with me because I was like, well, how are we going to get in? It felt like a tight like entrance into Kinsale. I don't think it wasn't in the end, but because also at like 12, or when we were coming in, the wind was picking up, so it ended up gusting quite hard, and so we were having to sail into an entrance we didn't know. There was a container ship anchored or a cargo ship waiting to actually come and unload all its stuff, which had passed us earlier in the night.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a bit of an interesting one. And Dave did really well with the sailing until they came along. We were about to drop anchor, and then luckily they popped up and secured us and got us going.
Yeah, and so interestingly, we were headed for Kinsale anyway. We had decided that before we left. We were sort of choosing between Cork and Kinsale. It looked like Kinsale was more of an interesting place to come. And talking to some guys here, Cork sounds like it's not that good of a harbour in comparison, because it's very, very far up the river to Cork. There's very limited boat accessibility up at the actual city itself. And then you've got Crosshaven and a couple of other places within the harbour that are quite small places. But it sounds like it's industrialised enough, but it's less charming than Kinsale from what we'll find out. We're going to go there next, probably, just because it's the next hop along the coast. But yeah, so Cork would have been a harder entrance in the conditions. We'd have had to harden up on the wind a lot sooner. As it was, we actually kept our course. As soon as the engine stalled, I got the jib out, immediately just rolled it full out, got control of the boat so that we had steerage. Luckily the rope didn't get caught in the rudder at all. So we were pretty happy. Then you'll see the footage of us trying to get the rope back on board. We got it on board and secured it so that nothing would get further complicated with it. I tried giving it a tug. It was very securely on there, so I didn't want to try winching it or anything like that in case I broke propeller, P-bracket, any of those kinds of things. It's just not worth the risk. There was so much swell that we couldn't even stop the boat, let alone jumping in the water with the swell, because these boats sort of pivot like that around the middle, so that would just hit you on the head if you're underwater. So we carried on. About an hour later, I called up the Cork Coast Guard here in Ireland and kind of explained the situation. It was a bit of a muddled call, so if you're watching, I apologise. It wasn't a Mayday and it wasn't a pan-pan. And you train for those situations, but you don't train for, I'm not really sure what to do, can you just give me a bit of advice? So it was more of a conversation. Luckily, Cork Coast Guard is on channel 2, not channel 16, so we were just conversing at about 4 in the morning on the radio. And I kind of said, you know, we've not got an engine right now, but we are under sail. There's no urgency, there's no panic, there's nobody in danger, everything's cool, but we are headed for Kinsale about 4 hours time. Are we able to sail into that harbour? Is it wide enough? Is it a good enough bottom? Do you think that's wise? They're not able to advise on stuff like that, and that's fine. And I kind of said, you know, if something goes wrong, I don't want to end up on the rocks. Is there somebody that could come maybe with a rib, tie alongside us, just so that we can guarantee we've got steerage? Because it's going to be a lee shore. And he said, yep, we'll give the RNLI a call and see if they're okay coming out. We stressed again, it wasn't a dangerous situation. And so it was agreed that we would call in when we're about half an hour away. RNLI would launch and come and help us to drop the anchor at the time, was what we had decided. As we approached, as Jude had said, the wind really started to build up from the east. And Kinsale it's not a wide harbour, but it's wide enough to sail in quite easily. But we had to sort of hook back towards the east as we came in. So we were on a lovely downwind, turned to be very hard on the wind coming in. And unfortunately there was a cargo ship anchored essentially across the channel. So we managed to sail into the harbour, called up the Coast Guard and said, look, this has turned a bit more urgent. We might not be able to sail in order to anchor. And he said, don't worry, RNLI have launched, they're on their way. And so, yeah, we carried on. And about 2 minutes later, we saw them jetting their way up the river. Absolutely magnificent show of boatmanship. They were at absolute full speed in their rib. Came up to the boat, circled it, had a look, and then came alongside. And the cox looked at the boat and said, well, I can see what your problem is, because we had the big rope over the side. And long story short, they tied alongside, we took the sail in, and they brought us in. Anything to add?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, we want to say a big thanks to the RNLI.
Yeah,
we've made a donation to the organisation. It's the sort of coastal rescue in the UK, for those not familiar. We don't have a charge for that system in the UK. I realise also, by the way, we're not in the UK right now. We're in Ireland, which is not part of the UK. I think I've explained this in another video. So we're in the southern part of the island of Ireland, which is known as Ireland because it's their land, and the Brits, from what I can tell, stole a bit of it. So but yeah, it works the same here. So there's no charge from the RNLI, there's no insurance or anything. We didn't call the insurance because we managed to get the rope off of the prop. There doesn't seem to be any damage, the engine works, everything's fine. Just a little bit of panic on the way in. The hardest part of the whole thing was getting rid of the rope. We managed to find a place with a bunch of fishing boats that has a pile of waste from fishing boats, and we've popped it in there along with the other flotsam and jetsam that builds up around those sorts of places. But yeah, it was fairly easy. It was exciting to sail into a harbour that we've never been into. Just before they picked us up, we actually had the anchor ready. We were in the anchorage that's marked on the chart, and we could have dropped, but we discussed it with the RNLI, and they kind of said, yeah, you need to get the rope off, you need to check the boat's okay, it will be better in the harbour. So they brought us all the way up to the end, and you can see it's a lovely sunny, quiet spot to contemplate what's happened. And we went ashore last night, had some drinks, went to
food because we were knackered, I think, but both of us probably had about 2 hours sleep on our shifts, just because at the time we were planning on sleeping was when we had to have the engine running. So downstairs was quite noisy, and obviously it does take quite a while to get into sleeping as well, actually, when you're sailing.
For those not used to long passages, the first 24 hours are really hard. Beyond that, if you're into a shift pattern, you really get used to it and you just drop asleep as soon as you hit the bunk. But the first 24 hours, and especially if you're expecting to get there in the morning, most people don't sleep on, or sleep lightly for the first night. But yeah, then we went ashore, had some food, came back, got in bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, slept all the way through until Dave's alarm went off, because we stupidly decided that in the weekdays we're going to have a 7 o'clock alarm. Yeah. Like we're going to work every day.
And if Apple are watching, really not a fan of the whole single volume control for alarms and calls, because while we're on watch we have to set alarms to get up and go on deck, so we wanted them loud. On an iPhone you have to set that with the normal volume control, which means when you get a text or if you get a call, your phone just blares out at you when you're trying to sleep.
Yeah, so, we're still trying to get our phones back to normal. Yeah. We were looking at getting like an alarm clock and having it by the side of our bed, but we never actually managed to find one that seemed right, that we had like, oh, we need it to be light and
So any
chargeable
ideas from people out there that have good solutions to alarms on watch, let us know. The phones do work, but it's just frustrating that, you know, you have to set it up in a way that you don't want your phone set up. I know, first world problems, apologies for that.
And keep it charged, and it is annoying, like... But yeah, also have to say we have a couple of two-way radios, not VHF. We bought them because a lot of YouTubers have them for things like anchoring. We don't really need them for anchoring on this boat, but we thought we'd give it a go to stop the shouting back and forth. But what we found them really useful for is we have one on deck and one down below, and when we're on passage we can just talk to each other really easily and wake each other up. So highly recommend a couple of cheap two-way radios. Yeah, definitely. And like, if anything emergency happens, although I heard the engine suddenly go off, but like it's definitely, we really think that they're useful.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the whole story. Went for a run this morning, really back in the spirit of things now. Kinsale is beautiful. We're just trying to find all of the things we need. So we need a laundry, we need water, we need fuel, and we're trying to get a berth in the yacht club, but it's a bit convoluted here, to say the least. It's a lovely town and a lovely river, but yeah, it's not as straightforward as just pulling in somewhere and getting all the things that you need. So
I guess also it's causing a bit of problem is we didn't really realise it's Bank Holiday Monday very soon after, like, so we've arrived within a week of Bank Holiday Monday, so they're actually quite full.
And for people not in the UK, we have bank holidays. There's one at the start of May, one at the end of May, one or two in August, and these are just public holidays where nobody's at work, or most people aren't at work. Obviously recognised restaurant workers and bar workers will always be working on days like that, but it gets really busy, and because we've given up work, we don't even know what day it is most of the time.
Well,
so we
alarm
turned
goes
up
off.
and the alarm goes off, but we turned up and the harbour people were like, oh, it's going to be busy because it's it's bank holiday, we've got the rugby on, we're not fans of rugby either, and there's some kids thing on, and there's a fiddle fair going on, which is an Irish kind of festival thing, and yeah, we're like, oh, good week to arrive in a harbour with hardly any berthing then. But it works. This is just the life that we're in, and we have a lot more challenges day to day than we did at home, but the rewards are enormous. I don't know anybody else that's now sitting out in the sunshine having wine on a boat in a beautiful river. Probably most people are still at work. It's 5 to 5. So apologies to all friends and ex-colleagues that are watching. You should try retirement, it's nicer.
Yeah.